Welcome to Creepy and Geeky. I'm your host, Robert, and on today's episode, I'm talking to new guest Matt Rogerson about Army of Darkness. Matt is an author whose writing often concerns the intersection between the Roman Catholic faith and the horror film. Matt's first two books, The Vatican versus Horror Movies and Fulci's Inferno, Faith in the Films of a Giallo and Horror Auteur, are published by McFarlane and Company. Matt is also the managing editor and owner of 1428 Publishing Limited, whose first book, Darkest Margins, Essays on Liminality and Liminal Spaces in the Horror Genre, is out now. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. Great to have you on. Um, I know we've been kind of following each other for a little bit on Instagram. Um,
Yeah,
and I don't know how we got hooked up either. It's just sometimes like I don't know who followed who first, and it's just one of those things where yeah, just horror fans just tend to find each other. So
yeah. My memory's not the best with these things. I just know we've been mutuals for a good while on
yeah,
Instagram.
yeah, definitely.
And then when you mentioned you needed someone to talk about Army of Darkness, oh, I was ready to bite your hand off.
Well, let's just go ahead and jump into it. Army of Darkness came out in 1993. It's the third part of the original Sam Raimi Evil Dead trilogy. This is actually my favorite of the entire franchise, and in large part because it's the first one I actually saw. I
Ah,
did not see the original two Evil Deads until actually quite a few years later, but I saw Army of Darkness in the theater in 1993 when I was 19
wonderful.
years old. Yeah. So I immediately fell in love with it and have just loved it ever since. It is wild and silly, but I don't know. I find that it's when we think of the Evil Dead, a large number of the most quotable lines and images that we tend to see from the Evil Dead from Sam Raimi's trilogy tend to come from Army of
Yeah,
Darkness.
from Army of Darkness,
Yeah.
sure.
So I've always like I always feel like it's weird that people kind of dismiss it a lot because it is more silly. It's not as gory as the first two. But I just feel like its place in the franchise and its place like kind of in culture in general just has a much bigger footprint than even the other two movies do in a lot of ways. People can argue about it. I get it. A lot of people love Evil Dead 2 a lot, and I understand their reasons for it. I don't know, just Evil Dead 2, just I get it. It's great. It really is. I don't think there's a bad Evil Dead movie. Every single Evil Dead movie has been fantastic to me.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
but uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, but this one just will always hold a special place in my heart. But what about you? What was your first exposure to it? How did you come to it? Is it your favorite?
Yeah, it is my favorite.
All right.
Um, and I'm going to say something quite controversial here. Not only is it my favorite, Army of Darkness is objectively the best one.
I agree
Um,
with you.
I know it was poorly received. I know it didn't do particularly well at the time, but
Yeah.
I do think that's just because people didn't realize what Raimi was doing.
Yes.
They expected more of the same, and that would make sense because they literally, prior to this, they got the same movie twice,
Yeah. Yeah.
for very good reasons, but
Yeah.
they did. Whereas this one really took it to a new scale. It was the first time Raimi was doing anything on this scale or anything anywhere near this scale. I adore this movie.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of the entire series. I saw the original Evil Dead when I was probably 6 or 7 years
Oh,
old.
wow.
My dad was a VHS pirate during the Video Nasties controversy here in the
Oh, yeah.
UK, where
Yeah.
I'm from. And so he would get his hands on these quote unquote video nasties. We had a bank of VCRs in our front room, like five of them stacked on top of each other, constantly whirring away,
That
making
is
copies.
awesome.
And one night I decided to sneak downstairs while my mum and dad were in bed. I turned on the TV, and what I saw was The Evil Dead. And so it was the first Evil Dead that actually began my love of horror. I didn't see Evil Dead 2 until I was well into adulthood. In
Yeah.
fact, I saw Army of Darkness before I saw Evil Dead 2. I was 16 or 17 when it came out. Me and my mate hired it from the local mom and pop video store on VHS. And it wasn't until we got it back to the house and I saw the tagline of The Medieval Dead that I
Yeah.
even realised it was an Evil Dead film. Well, we both loved it. Couldn't stop talking about it afterwards. And then a few months later, it was on the TV late on a Saturday night, and I watched it again, and it had a different ending.
Mm.
And I'd never experienced watching a film twice and it being different before. So I actually gaslit myself into believing that I'd misremembered my first viewing of the film. Um,
So which
so
version
when
did you see first?
the first version I saw was the one where he drinks one too many drops of the water and he wakes up
Okay.
in what's supposed to be the
The
distant future.
post-apocalypse.
Where, yeah,
Okay.
the post-apocalyptic future where
Yeah.
all the landmarks of every country in the world are all in one place.
Right, right, right.
So it wasn't until months later when I saw it on the TV that I saw the happy ending
The
where he's
theatrical
back
ending.
in,
Yeah.
yeah, where he's back in the S Mart.
That's so
So
funny.
yeah, it blew my mind that a film could have multiple endings. I'd never
Yeah.
experienced that before. It was almost like having one of those choose your own adventure books where there's like different
Yeah.
endings depending on what choices you make.
Yeah. I guess you hadn't seen Clue at that point yet, huh?
No, no, I hadn't.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too that because it wasn't until much later that I found out about the multiple endings. And
Hmm.
then because like I said, I saw this in the theater. I saw the theatrical cut with the quote unquote happy ending in the S Mart. But and here's a somewhat controversial opinion too. I prefer the theatrical version. I prefer that version over the post-apocalyptic version. Plus, it's got the better line where he's like, "Good, bad, I'm the guy with the gun." And in the director's cut version, it's a different line too. I can't remember what the line
Yes.
is, but I don't know. Just there's something about the theatrical version that just I don't know, just sings to me in a way that just makes more sense. I don't mind the director's cut version. It is a lot of fun in itself. But I also think that it's I don't know, it just not as good as the theatrical version for myself. For myself.
That's
So,
fair. I think there's better resolution. It's a better resolution to the story in the theatrical cut.
right.
Um, and it's got a fantastic line at the end where he takes the woman in his arms and says, "Hail to the king, baby."
Yeah.
You wouldn't have had that otherwise. Have you seen the quote unquote bootleg version that was released on DVD? It's not actually a bootleg, but it's where they put together all of the scenes that have been stripped out.
I
So
don't
there's a
think
lot
I have. Yeah.
there's a lot of extra stuff that goes on, when he's in the windmill
Yeah.
and
I've heard of that. Yeah.
that eventually creates evil ash. And well,
Yeah.
there's a lot more to that sequence, and that's all in the bootleg
Yeah.
cut, which is pretty cool. I don't think it adds a whole lot to the film. I can see
Yeah.
why it was kept out.
Yeah.
But yeah, on the whole, Army of Darkness, it's fresh, it's different, it's on a grander scale, and oh
Yeah.
my god, is it funny?
Yeah. No,
It's
it's go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's one of the funniest films I've ever seen.
Yeah.
As a comedy for me, it's right up there with Airplane. I consider it one of the greatest comedies ever made, and it's just so fast and snappy with the gags.
Oh,
If you
so
don't
good.
like one, there'll be another one along in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And it contains the single greatest gag I've ever experienced in a film, one that still has me roaring with laughter, even after seeing it literally hundreds of times. I've watched it again this evening, and I was roaring with laughter at this particular line. It's, hey, What's that you got on your face?
Huh? Huh? Shoves
Doomph.
dirt on his face. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. No, this is what, and this is the thing that I find the most interesting when we talk about the Evil Dead and we talk about Sam Raimi doing this. They made the original Evil Dead. These guys were not horror guys. These guys were comedy guys. They were
Mm.
known for making lots of comedy films in their in high school. They were
Yeah.
doing stuff that was Three Stooges inspired, lots of
Yes.
things that they were doing that you can see the tone in Evil Dead 2 starts to go in that direction.
Very much so.
Army of Darkness is the ultimate culmination of crossing all of that together. This is a much more silly, much more adventurous movie. This
Yeah.
is more of a comedy adventure more than a horror movie. So I get that the purists, the people who watch the original Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, are going to want more of that horror. And I love that that's where the rest of the franchise is going for sure. I love that. But I also love that we have this movie and this tonality ends up going more into Ash versus Evil Dead as well, where the
Yes.
TV show is more in line with the comedic sensibilities. It's still got the horror, but there's a lot of comedy going on in that show that that Evil Dead 2 kind of starts, but Army of Darkness really kind of solidifies. And I think that it's more in keeping in tone with what Campbell and Raimi had intended originally. The only reason why they went with horror, and if you go back and read everything, listen to them talk about it, the only reason why they went with horror in the first place was because they wanted to make something that would sell.
Yes.
And that's absolutely the only reason why they made a horror movie, because they knew it would sell, and it did. So, they made what was, in a lot of ways, probably the most focus group kind of movie ever. They're just like, we need to make a movie that's going to sell in the drive-in and is going to do well, and they did. Evil Dead stands, as one of the best movies in that kind of in this kind of genre.
For
Um,
sure. For
and
sure.
and and just as a whole, the franchise is just solid. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm very much like you about Ash versus Evil Dead as well. I love that the series really picks up on the tonality of
Mm-hmm.
Army of Darkness, but also I love the Ash versus Evil Dead the series. It's aware of all three movies,
Mm-hmm.
and even though there's real like issues with that because of course Evil Dead 2 is basically a remake of Evil Dead the original. But there's things like where someone mentions a specific place name in one episode. I can't remember the name of the place, but then Ash goes, "Oh yeah, I met my second Linda there."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I just, yeah, I love that it's aware of itself, it's poking fun at itself,
Yeah,
and that's what Army of Darkness does. It knows that it's a ridiculous movie.
yeah,
It knows that it's trying to be multiple things, whereas the original Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead wasn't the original Evil Dead, was it? There was Within the Woods before that, the
yeah,
short that they shot on 8mm. But then the original Evil Dead, they basically remade it because it had been banned in the UK, it had been banned in other European countries, so a
mm-hmm.
big portion of their potential audience had missed out on it.
Yeah,
So they, of course, teamed up with super producer Dino De Laurentiis to make a bigger budget and more palatable version. And yeah, a lot of people think Evil Dead 2 is the best one, and I think it's certainly it's the best tonally balanced one. It's got a really great balance of comedy and horror.
yeah,
But then Army of Darkness was the one where he really started going, now what can I actually do with this that's
yeah,
beyond just a single location
yeah.
thing?
Well, and I think they were going specifically for a more mainstream audience, a more they wanted to go because he'd done Darkman previous to this, and
Yes.
that had been somewhat successful. It wasn't a huge hit or whatever, but it definitely played in the marketing. for this movie. They're like the director of Darkman. And so, he definitely had that like somewhat Hollywood cachet at that point. Evil Dead 2 was not the selling point. Um, what's his name? I just said the word. Darkman was
Yes.
the was the was the kind of touchstone to bring modern, like to bring the audiences to this movie. So they're like, look, you remember Darkman, let's bring, this is kind of in that same tone. It's dark, but it's not, it's funny. We're balancing everything, and this is the like in the IMDb uh things, this says that this was the first and last time Bruce Campbell was the lead of a movie. So like
Mm.
what did it say? First and last studio film Bruce Campbell starred in as the lead. So, because I mean, technically, most of the time, Bruce Campbell is a character, like character
Yeah,
supporting
character
actor.
actor.
He
Yeah.
does a lot of that. He's got the lead star looks. He just doesn't have the lead star hype, I guess. He's always
Yes.
he's always been the clown, and then that's fine. Because I think he's embraced that and knows that. But yeah, with this movie, it kind of transitioned Raimi, and I think it really helped Raimi too, between Darkman and this movie, kind of started to transition him into more of a maybe more mainstream director as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, Darkman first of all, and then this, then Army of Darkness. They were the films that showed he wasn't a one trick pony.
Yeah.
Because yeah, he'd made Evil Dead. It stood up. It was very very good for a horror movie, for a shoestring budget horror
Hmm.
movie. He made Evil Dead 2. All right, it's the same movie. It's very, very good, but it is the same movie.
You're right.
In between those, he'd made Crime Wave, which, oh, God bless him. I mean, I love that film, but it's a pile of rubbish.
I haven't seen it. I've just heard so many bad things about it that it's just terrible that I'm just like, I don't know if I really want to see it. But
It's awful, but
yeah,
it's like I still watch it with a lot of love.
yeah,
There's a lot of fun. Now Crime Wave is an out and out screwball comedy. It's
yeah,
very, very Three Stooges. But that was an absolute failure of a movie. So
yeah,
at this point, all he had was the fact that he'd made the same film a
yeah,
couple of times. But then, yeah, Darkman and Army of Darkness showed not only audiences but producers
yeah.
that he was worth trusting with some money
Right.
to make different kinds of films. And well, we all know where that ended up. He ended up directing two very, very excellent Spider-Man movies and a third Spider-Man movie that
Yeah.
had too much studio interference.
Right, right.
And I don't think that would have happened without Darkman,
No.
especially,
Yeah.
and without this movie as well.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think these movies kind of put him on the map for a certain kind of sensibility, a certain kind of, especially coming into the 90s.
Hmm.
People were looking for something a little bit different. Obviously, he parlayed this into becoming a television producer and doing Hercules and Xena
Xena,
during the 90s.
yeah,
Yeah. And which again follows in the same kind of sensibilities that he kind of sets up with Army of Darkness. Very adventurous, very silly, but very
very
tonally.
adventure based.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's very much Army of Darkness is like where Raimi, I think, really becomes Raimi.
Yeah.
It's the two Evil Dead movies and Darkman. We're going to ignore Crime Wave, but the two Evil Dead movies, kind of get him to get to Darkman. Darkman is a necessary step to get to Army of Darkness. Darkman is interesting because it's that one came out in 90, and after the Batman movie had come out. And so
Mm,
it's keeping in tone with those kind of dark, more pulpy superhero movies of that time period that came and followed in that wake, because we got like with the Rocketeer and the Shadow and
the Shadow,
Phantom
yes.
and all those like more pulp based heroes. Um, And so then when Army of Darkness comes out, you know, it's just kind of like a weird, like, okay, and I get it, it's weird, don't get me wrong, like if you were a fan of the Evil Dead movies that led up to this and you get Army of Darkness, you're gonna be like, what the hell, like how is this where we're transitioning to, like where did this come from? And it's just like, and so in retrospect, because you know I have the hindsight of, you know, I have the the advantage of hindsight at this point, you can see that that's where kind of his career was going, and then especially to where it was going to go from that point. You know, because his next movie after Army of Darkness is The Quick and the Dead, which
Quick and the
also
Dead.
plays in this same kind of sensibilities. It's kind of adventure kind of very silly, very over the top. It's very much in keeping with the tone of his visuals, which I do want to get
Yes.
into, because this is like the Evil Dead show you where his visuals are going, but I feel like Army of Darkness really kind of cements his visuals a lot too. There's so many great
Yeah,
shots in this movie that are so fantastic and so iconic in so many ways, especially again to the
absolutely.
franchise. Yeah.
And I think also, I think because Army of Darkness, he started experimenting in the vein of another one of his influences rather than just the Three Stooges. Now, as much as I watched and loved video nasties from a precocious young age, I was also into kid friendly stuff as well. And one of my obsessions as a kid were the films of Ray Harryhausen.
Yes.
And Raimi's a big fan of Ray Harryhausen as well.
Yeah.
And that really shows in this movie. There's
Oh yeah.
lots of
The Army of
stuff
Dead
that,
itself is awesome like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The Army of the Dead is just like the Skeleton Army in Jason and the Argonauts. But
Sinbad.
there's
Yeah.
stuff in there. There's the Flying Demon is reminiscent of
Hmm.
so many of Harryhausen's creations. It's like a mixture of his greatest hits.
Yeah.
Evil Ash has elements of Calibos from Clash of the Titans about
Yeah.
him. Not necessarily in his look, but in his actions. So,
Yeah.
in Clash of the Titans, which I also rewatched earlier today, Calibos sends a giant stop motion vulture to snatch Princess Andromeda away. Evil Ash does the same thing. He sends the flying demon to kidnap
Yeah.
Sheila so that he can make her his. But more than that, Calibos is like the disfigured former fiance of Andromeda. Well, what's Evil Ash but a disfigured, deadite version of Ash, the man
Yeah.
Sheila's fallen in love with?
Yeah.
In fact, at first, he is Ash. He's a perfect carbon copy until Ash shoots him in the face with his boomstick.
Right.
And clearly, Evil Ash, despite how he now looks and acts, he wants Sheila back the same way Calibos wanted Andromeda back. And yeah, there's so many reflections of various Ray Harryhausen movies in Army of Darkness, and that is something that I absolutely adore about it.
Oh yeah. No, any kid who grew up in the 80s and earlier, we all knew Harryhausen's work, especially, you know, with a lot of that stuff, especially Clash of the Titans was a big one for
Yeah.
us in the 80s. Um,
First film I saw in the cinema, that.
oh yeah, nice.
And
Yeah.
I remember I embarrassed the hell out of my mum because there's a scene where Princess Andromeda is getting out of the bath and there is full frontal nudity in what is rated U in the UK, which means suitable for all. And I
Yeah.
just went, Mummy, that woman's got no clothes on. I can see her boobies. And my mum died of embarrassment at that moment. She's never let me forget it.
Yeah, it was rated PG here in the States. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, definitely supposed to be you know, parental guidance, obviously. But yeah, that is how slippery the ratings were back when we were kids, was that yeah, you could get full frontal nudity in a PG movie at the time. Now you can't get it in anything less than R at this point. Um
Yeah.
but yeah, it's funny. Um it the weird stuff that we grew up with, just the move in terms of the movies and the stuff that we got in that stuff, just
Hmm.
the darkness that we had in a lot of our kids movies at that. But yeah, it's yeah, no, Clash of the Titans is great. It's a great one. It's I was really into it's probably what spurred on my love of Greek mythology, because that came out
Same.
in 1981, which would have been I
Yep.
would have been 7 at the time. And I got heavy into Greek mythology right around 6th grade, so a few years later than that, probably once I could understand it a little bit more. But
Sure.
yeah, it Greek mythology became a huge love of mine for many years. Um, and so yeah, it just yeah, just the work of Ray Harryhausen was so fantastic at the time. Because I mean, we're talking like, it looks all quaint and silly now and everything like that. But at the time, that stop motion animation was like, you know, peak,
Oh
for what
yeah,
they
it
could
was an
do.
incredible innovation. The
Yeah.
what did he call it? It wasn't claymation, was it? Dynamation?
Yeah.
Dynamation, I think. And yeah, the things he created and the way he managed to work himself into the films because his effects were so good that these films, despite him never having directed any of these films,
Yeah.
they are all known as Ray Harryhausen
Yeah.
films
Yeah.
because he was
Exactly.
involved from script to screen. He was heavily involved all the way through script development, art design, production. So yeah, they all became known colloquially, at least, as Ray Harryhausen films,
Yeah.
and they were. I remember when they were on the television, and we used to get like the TV guide, and whenever it said that one of these was coming, it would say a Ray Harryhausen film, and it
Yeah.
wouldn't mention the director.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely no. But yeah, no, that definitely is an influence on this one, for sure. With a lot of the, like we said, with the Army of the Dead and a lot of the other visuals that go into all this, which I think is fantastic. It just shows just Raimi's big influences at the time, and just trying to bring in this kind of fun sense of adventure to this movie that
Mm,
was largely a horror franchise up until this point. And I still argue that Army of Darkness is a horror movie. It's just very horror light. It doesn't
yeah.
have the gore, and it doesn't have the intensity of the first two movies. And
Well,
again,
that's the
I
great
really
thing
feel like
about
it's
horror, isn't it?
yeah,
It can play in every sandpit. It can
absolutely.
play in every other genre of film.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that's why I love horror in general, is just and horror
Mm,
comedy. Horror comedy is my favorite of the subgenres of horror. And Army of Darkness plays a very large role in why that is the way it
yeah.
is for me. Um but yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is, Bruce Campbell at the top of his game, probably at his ultimate peak. Um he does good stuff after this. But I just feel like, this moment right here, 1993, him playing Ash, is him at the best, like the only time he gets to be the leading man. In a big studio movie. Obviously he was leading man in other, smaller, low budget films, including the other Evil Dead movies. But this is, this is huge. He get because this was a Universal film. This wasn't, you know, the low budget stuff that they'd been doing before.
Yeah, it
Um,
was a big deal.
yeah, and so
And
it was it this was big when it came out, because like I said, I saw this in the theater, and I had no knowledge of anything. Like, and you go into it and they give you the backstory. They say, hey, this is what happened before, like in the beginning of the movie, and they just roll right into now he's in the past. And so I was like, hey, I didn't need to know anything else. That told me everything I needed to know about the movie. So
yeah, it was certainly my reintroduction to horror. So as I said, I watched a lot of the video nasties in the early
hmm
1980s when I was a child. But then that whole controversy happened. Our government brought in the Video Recordings Act, and then horror movies kind of disappeared in the UK because so many of them got caught up in the Video Recordings Act and were either banned or so many cuts were ordered that the producers just didn't bother releasing them. So there was kind of a dearth of horror movies on our video shelves for a while. There was the big franchises, Freddy, Jason, Michael,
Yeah.
and not much else. And it was then, yeah, it was when I saw Army of Darkness, like I said, probably about 17. I think I was 17 in 93. Yeah, yeah, I was born in 76. So yeah, I'm going to say 17. And when I watched that, and it was Evil Dead again, but it was so incredibly funny,
Yeah.
as well as having these amazing monsters. That really got me back on the horror train. And
Yeah.
yeah, I have a great deal of thanks to it for that.
Yeah.
And what you were saying about Bruce Campbell, it really is a film where he comes into his own, and
Mm.
it's the film where the character of Ash is kind of finally fully formed.
Yes.
We come to realize who Ash is now. So you've got the accumulated trauma of what he's gone through in the previous films,
Right.
plus his original personality, have created this horrible, arrogant, cowardly idiot of a man that yet you can't help but root for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, he's wonderful in it. I would cite this and Bubba Hotep as my two favourite Bruce Campbell
Mhm.
performances. I think he's fantastic as Elvis in Bubba Hotep as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, wonderful, absolutely wonderful performance.
No, I agree with you. This definitely solidifies who, and that's again why I think it's so weird that we get so many people who kind of dismiss Army of Darkness in terms of kind of like the Evil Dead fandom and stuff like that, is because this is really where we get the solidification of a lot of the ideas of the world of of the Evil Dead, including Ash as this bumbling like hero, this guy who is put into these impossible situations, and while he's very much a dumbass, he rises to the occasion and manages
Yep.
to do what needs to be done to stop these. And you kind of get that not in the first movie. The first Evil Dead is very much played very seriously.
Yeah,
There's
very
a
much
few
so.
there's a few silly moments in there, but really it's not comedic at all. The
No.
second movie is definitely played more for there's some more laughs in there, but it's still trying to find its voice, I think, in a lot of ways. And the Ash that we get in that still hasn't found the voice that we definitely get in Army of Darkness. And I think it just, yeah, there's something about this movie. And it's so funny too, because like I would say nobody else in this cast is playing up to that level. Nobody
Oh
else,
no.
like everybody else is pretty forgettable. I think Beth Davids does great as Sheila, but even still, she's not doing as great as Bruce Campbell is. Bruce Campbell carries this movie. It is very much a tour de force performance for him as both Ash and Evil Ash. And so,
Yeah, the whole thing is built around him, and the supporting cast are very much that. And like you
yeah,
say, Embeth Davids is very, very good with the little material she's given to work
yeah,
with, but everybody else is given so little material to work
yeah,
with. This
yeah,
is still, even though we're no longer in a little cabin in the woods, we're in this great, expansive medieval world, it is
yeah,
still just Ash by himself for the vast
yeah, yeah.
majority of the film.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so I think that's kind of what makes it work too, is because you do have him in this kind of broader world, but it's still just him.
Yeah.
And so he's still dealing with the weirdness and everything else that's going on. Um, it you look at this movie's only like what is it, like 81 minutes total, I think, in
Hmm.
the theatrical. This is, yeah, an hour and 21 minutes. It is a very short film. The director's cut is 96 minutes, but I argue that's kind of a long 96 minutes too. They kind of play out some scenes a little too long. I think this 81 minutes is nice and tight. It works really well for this movie particularly. And like
I
I
would
said,
agree. Yeah,
yeah,
there's interesting things in the director's cut.
yeah,
There's interesting things in the bootleg cut as well. But the the movie isn't missing anything by not having those
Yeah,
bits in there.
exactly.
The 80 odd minute version is just it's the perfect version of that film.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think that it's like you said, there's nothing really in the more expanded cuts that you don't like it nothing it doesn't add anything extra to it that's necessary. And this this theatrical version of Army Darkness is now 100% canon once Ash versus Evil Dead comes in.
Yep.
Because and it even Ash versus Evil Dead ends the final season ends with him also being in the future in a post-apocalyptic thing,
Yeah.
and we never get resolution to that either. So I love that we have these two narratives like that. He could be in the future. I don't know. um
Like I said before, that's what I love about Ash versus Evil Dead is everything is canon in that, even
yeah,
the stuff that contradicts
yes,
itself.
yeah.
The fact that he's had multiple girlfriends called Linda,
Yeah,
the fact that he's been to this same cabin in the woods twice, seemingly having no recollection of having been there
yeah,
before when he returns the second time.
yeah,
But it's all canon because it's just fun that way.
yeah,
It's fun that way to embrace the silliness.
yeah,
And Army of Darkness is the turning point. It's the
yeah,
place where it really embraces the silliness
yeah.
of this whole concept.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's where because of Ash versus Evil Dead, and it's interesting too because Ash versus Evil Dead, the first season of that could not reference Army of Darkness at all because at the time they couldn't get the rights to reference it. And
Oh, that's
so
right.
yeah, so it's
Yeah.
not until the second season and later that they're able to actually finally bring that story into it, which was interesting. It definitely helped add that in. You're not missing a lot in that first. They don't go out of their way to contradict Army of Darkness. They don't. They just don't
No, they just
reference
don't
it.
mention it
Yeah,
explicitly, do
yeah.
they? But
So
then, yeah, I'd actually forgotten that. But yeah,
yeah,
thinking about it now, that makes perfect sense because it wasn't until season two that I felt the show really found its feet.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And of
Same.
course, that's subjective for me because I'm such a huge fan of Army of Darkness.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, same. Yeah, no, I think this is there's so much going on in this too. I think it's interesting that they have this that they the way they made this movie. There's a lot going on here. They made it out obviously in the California desert um,
Hmm.
with these sets. That's apparently a lot of night shooting, which was a big problem for them just
Yeah.
because they actually had extras like wandering off into the desert and just like disappearing. People wouldn't come back. Like nobody died or anything like that. They just were like, hey, yeah, I'm not doing this crap, I'm out of here. um so from everything that I've read on it, it is a wild shoot. Very
Yeah.
very tough on everybody. But they also had some of the best times making the movie as well. I know it said in the trivia here that Embeth David's uh it says she had such a rough time shooting the fight scenes, filming at night and wearing heavy prosthetics, that she contemplated quitting acting.
Wow.
Yeah. And then in a later interview, she acknowledged the hardship she had to endure, but said that over the years she had come to enjoy all the positive comments she got from fans of the film.
Oh,
So
good.
yeah. So I think that's one of those things where like I know, like, because I mean, all of these Evil Dead movies up until this point have been hellaciously hard on the actors between the
Yeah.
contacts and the makeup effects and everything else, the living conditions they had to deal with, especially on the first movie. Just so much that goes into these movies that they had to endure. But everybody seems to have like at least gone back and looked at it and gone, you know what? It sucked at the time, but it's great that it's become this big cultural phenomenon and has become such a big deal nowadays, and especially with the resurgence of the franchise, and we're getting Evil Dead Burn. So it's
Yeah, I've
exciting.
just I saw the trailer for that the other day. I was
Yeah,
in the cinema to watch what was it? Oh, Hokum, and the trailer for Evil Dead
yeah.
Burn came on, and I was blown away by that trailer. It
Oh
was really,
man,
really good.
it's fantastic. There's two trailers out. There's the US version and there was a different version. I'm not sure. I guess it's the international version. Um, but the international version has like a little bit more kind of background story information. So anybody who hasn't seen both trailers, definitely go look for them. They're both on YouTube.
Oh, I think
Yeah.
I don't. That's interesting because the one I saw, it's
Mhm.
literally just one sequence. It's someone crawling through a house and bodies just start dropping everywhere, one
Oh, that
after
was the
another.
teaser. Yeah, that was the teaser.
All
Yeah. So
right, so that's the teaser. I've only
yeah,
seen the teaser then.
okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. There's now a full trailer out that kind of tells you more of the, a little bit more of the story and stuff like that. But it's
Ah,
very much,
fantastic.
yeah. So it's very intense. Yeah, definitely check that out and then check out both the U.S. and the international versions because there's different bits and pieces for each one of those.
Yeah, I will. I will.
Yeah.
And then I suppose you've got, and it's not officially an Evil Dead movie, but I have always thought of it as one, and it's and the name's just gone. The one about the old gypsy woman.
Uh, Drag Me to Hell.
Drag Me to Hell. Thank
Yeah,
you. I don't know
yeah,
why that had escaped my brain, but it had. Drag Me to Hell is it, it's an
yeah.
Evil Dead film in all but
Yeah,
name.
yeah. I
It's
could see
basically
that.
the
Yeah,
same. And
yeah.
he's
There's a
doing another one of those now as well.
Is he interesting?
Yeah, he's doing a second Drag Me to Hell, which is a
Interesting.
fantastic bit of news.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'd definitely be interested in seeing that. Yeah, I like the first Drag Me to Hell. It definitely has those sensibilities. It was like him coming back to horror after he had done like the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was his first movie after doing the Spider-Man movies. And then he did Oz the Great and Powerful. um
never
then
mind.
yeah. But then Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is excellent. I love that movie.
Yeah, that's a lot of
Great.
fun.
Yeah, and
A
his
lot
new
of
one
fun.
that
Very
just
much a Sam Raimi greatest hits
oh,
movie, that one.
for sure. Love that one. It's more of what I wanted the Spider-Man movies to be like because while I like the Spider-Man movies that he did, I don't love them. I'm one of the rare people that
Ah,
really doesn't love the Tobey Maguire ones. I like what he does in some of those because you get some of Sam's sensibilities in those. Um,
hmm.
but they do feel very tempered by the studio. Um,
That's fair.
yeah,
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I do love them, especially the second one. I think
yeah,
we got a lot more of Raimi's sensibilities in the second one.
yeah,
There was a lot more kind of horror adjacent
yes,
content
yeah.
in it. I loved the first two. I try to only say good things about the third one, so I might say nothing at all. But I really do love the first two.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love the Doctor Strange movie as well. I haven't
Oh yeah.
seen Get Help yet,
Send
or
help. Yeah.
Send Help yet.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. It's very good. Um,
Awesome.
I enjoyed that one a lot. It's definitely got a few of those moments. I think it's interesting though too. Like I think that even he now isn't doing quite so many of his, Raimi touches here and there. He's doing enough in it. I enjoyed it a lot because there was just enough of what he's doing visually speaking because he's one of those directors that I always talk about when I talk about because there's so many directors who are just like they're okay. They're very workmanlike. I think they're good directors, but there's a lot of directors um who are big names that don't have to
Hmm.
me a recognizable visual style in terms of camera work and editing and stuff like that where Raimi definitely a Raimi movie.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, Raimi, Edgar Wright, they definitely have very distinct visual styles that when you watch them, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is definitely their movie.
yeah.
And I
You know
think,
when Sam straps his camera to a plank of wood.
yeah, well, and I think that's again what Army of Darkness does so well that it very much solidifies a lot of what he was doing up to that point, and very much is like this just feels like the best of Sam Raimi in so many ways.
Hmm.
Like Army of Darkness just feels so like pure Raimi.
Yeah.
That it just like and stuff before and after just doesn't sing quite as well. But just Army of Darkness just feels so perfectly his. And like I said, with Bruce Campbell just at the top of his game with this one, and just the story just being so fun and just goofy, um and not goofy in a in a way that takes you out of the movie. You're just like,
Oh
oh,
no.
this, yeah, it's like not so over the top that you get, even when they are going for the stupid gags, like with the skeletons poking out and he's doing the Three Stooges bit and everything like that.
Hmm.
It's overly silly, yes, but it's so in keeping with the tone
Very much so. And
that
even like
it just
a,
works.
a lot of people criticize some of the things later on during the big final battle when it's very obvious that somebody is just off screen throwing these skeletons
Yes,
at
yeah,
Bruce Campbell. And I'm like, why are you criticizing that? That's deliberate. That's so on purpose. That's so Sam Raimi. He's just doing everything he can to terrorize Bruce Campbell, which is all he's ever wanted to do in his whole career. He's just completely terrorized Bruce Campbell and terrorized his brother Ted.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Oh man. Yeah, no, that's exactly like I noticed that too, is one of the things I found hilarious on this second watch. Or this new watch. I know that I've seen these before, but just I don't know, you bringing it up reminded me of that too, because there is that moment where the skeletons are just literally being, you can tell they're literally being thrown at him, and he's just like, what, get off of here, he's
There's
just throwing
no
them back
points
down.
of articulation whatsoever.
No, they're literally
I
the kinds of skeletons we have nowadays that are in people's yards. They're literally just throwing them at at him to
I
act like they're attacking him. It's so
I
stupid.
bidded for one of those on an auction a few
Mm,
years ago. I wasn't successful, unfortunately. But yeah, one of the big online movie memorabilia auction sites had one up for auction. I think I got about as high as 800 quid on
mm,
it, which is about $1,000 in your money.
yeah.
And then after that, it was too rich for me. I just didn't have the money to
Do you
keep.
remember how much it went for?
I don't know because the
Okay.
minute I realised it wasn't going to be mine anymore, I didn't
You
even want to
just
look
checked
at it
out.
again.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm never going back on that site again.
I don't blame you at all. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, myself personally, I probably would have, even if I knew about it, I probably would have never bought it or like even tried, because I've been like, oh no, somebody's gonna bid like way more than I have. So, uh,
Yeah.
but you never know. I mean, who knows? People, you might be able to get something cool like that.
Well, people do sleep on things
They do.
occasionally, don't
They
they?
do.
So you never know, but not in this case.
Yeah. Um, so talking about this movie's interesting too, because we get to the scene where Ash goes and finds the Necronomicon, and there's three Necronomicons.
Mm,
And in this one's kind of, it's played as jokey that he's got to get the one specific and the other two are fakes and everything like that. But this becomes a plot point in Evil Dead Rise, that is being told that there are three
there are
books.
multiple books,
Yeah,
yeah.
and we've seen the three books now. In the Raimi trilogy is one, in the 2013 is the second one, and in Evil Dead Rise is the third one. So we've seen all three books now. Um, and it's curious now. The three books that are in Army of Darkness all look like the Raimi one. So they're all identical to each other. That's why he can't tell. But it does make you wonder, like, if they kind of planted the seed there, or if it's just kind of a retroactive Easter egg now that we're all going, oh, so he did plant three books. We'll never know. I'm sure he'll never say anything, or if he does, he's just gonna play it off. So,
Yeah, I imagine so.
but it's a fun little bit there to imagine. um I don't know. This movie is just so fun. Like I said, this has some of the most quotable bits.
Oh, it's so quotable.
Yeah, this is my boomstick.
Yeah,
Um,
that whole speech.
yeah,
You, you're not leading but two things: Jack and shit, and Jack left
Yeah.
town.
Give me some sugar, baby. Hail to the king. Like
Uh-huh.
so many good things that are like all these classic lines that people quote constantly when in regards to uh uh the Evil Dead.
The whole franchise.
Yeah. And it's funny too because the comic books, this led into a whole series of comic books. Dynamite Comics still produces
Yes.
comics to this day. And they're all Army of Darkness related. Like it's like
Yep.
that's the whole thing because they don't, for some reason they can't really get the rights to Evil Dead, so they just base it all on Army of Darkness. So everything that's come out afterward is kind of following in the footsteps of what happened in Army of Darkness as well. So I love that that's Army of Darkness does have seems to have the most consequential um like impact over the entire franchise.
Yeah,
Um
I'd say so. It's got the majority of the legacy comes
yeah,
from that film.
yeah. Um they speaking going back to speaking about Sam Raimi just torturing Bruce Campbell, a little bit of trivia as I'm looking through these. It's during the scene where Ash is being pelted with rocks, fake rocks were used to get a more realistic reaction out of Bruce Campbell, and partially as a prank, director Sam Raimi pelted him with potatoes. This cut was used. So yeah, it's just it's so dumb. It's just it's this movie's just so much fun, and I love the. I mean, obviously, as much as you know, he tortures Bruce. That they obviously have a great relationship. Bruce has been in literally pretty much every movie that Sam Raimi has ever done, even if it's just in a minor role.
Hmm.
He was in all three Spider-Man movies.
The
Um,
only thing that's been in more of them's that damn car.
yeah, yeah, but which is also in this movie, which plays a very good uh part in this movie as well. So yeah, no, it's this movie's just fantastic. I love this movie. Uh, there is so much to love about this movie, and I think that it's you know, obviously its lasting impact on Evil Dead cannot be understated. You know, as we mentioned, there's so much that we remember about this movie that people remember about the Evil Dead in general. And I just I want people to, you know, come out of this conversation, you know, appreciating Army of Darkness maybe just a little bit more.
Hope so.
Yeah,
Hope so. It deserves it. It really deserves its flowers.
it
It
does.
is a wonderful movie. If ever I need cheering up, it's the
Oh
number
yeah.
one film I go to. I put it on and I'm immediately grinning from ear to ear, and I am all the way through.
Oh yeah. No, it's such a fun movie. It's definitely one to do for that. I agree. It's just too much fun to watch at any time. But yeah, is there anything else that you wanted to mention before we wrap up?
There might be, yeah.
Okay.
Would you mind indulging me while I go down a little rabbit
Yeah.
hole on
Uh,
an unlikely influence on
yeah.
Army of Darkness and, well, on of all the Evil Dead films?
Yes.
So, I only found out about this a few years ago. There's a film from 1970 called Equinox. It's a supernatural horror film directed by a chap called Jack Woods, a very low budget and fun shocker that was apparently a popular midnight movie at drive-ins and grindhouse theatres in the early 70s before it completely vanished for years until 2006 when it was released on DVD as part of the Criterion collection,
Oh
which
wow.
means it's this little shoestring shocker is in the Criterion closet, which is amazing. The film focuses on a group of four young people having a picnic in a California canyon where they stumble upon an ancient book used to conjure demons. Soon they accidentally unleash a plethora of evil creatures that they then must fight. Now, any story similarities with the Evil Dead films end there, but it's the visual representations for me. There's a creepy old guy who gives the kids the book, and then he laughs and contorts his face like a deadite horror hag. There's a demon called Asmodeus who disguises himself as a forest ranger, and the look of him is very much like possessed Ash in Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. In fact, there's shots of him looming over the protagonist that are identical to shots in the Evil Dead films. The camera's at a low angle looking up, and so is the lighting, crucially, casting like elongated shadows across this guy's face in much the same way as Raimi shot possessed Ash. And then later on, things just go full on Army of Darkness. Asmodeus turns into a stop motion winged demon, swoops down and carries off Vicky, one of the characters, and kills her. There's a castle that appears out of nowhere, which seems to be Asmodeus's base of operations, and it looks very familiar. A critic from DVD Talk called Bill Gibron says, and I quote, "In a strange way, Equinox is the Evil Dead with Ray Harryhausen substituting for Sam Raimi. There are so many obvious connections that you have to imagine Sam and his clan came across this version somewhere in their formation of their film and started taking stylistic notes. While it can't compare with Dead's decided darkness, Equinox manages to be an effective entertainment." Now, I had to watch it, and I had to dig as deep into it as I could, and I have seen it a few times. It's in parts fantastic and in parts boring as hell. There are some stretches that are really difficult to get through, but there's some absolute gem sequences in there. Now, Sam Raimi maintains that he had not seen Equinox prior to making Evil Dead, and I believe him.
Yeah.
But what I do know is that Tom Sullivan, who was part of the special effects team on Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, so he worked directly with Robert Kurtzman, Greg Nicotero, and Howard Berger on Evil Dead 2 prior to those three forming KMB EFX Group, which of course now dominates the industry. And he designed the original Necronomicon in the first film. He says this for the Criterion Collection version, and I quote, "I had seen Equinox at least twice in drive-ins before making Evil Dead. I don't recall discussing it with Sam Raimi, but the similarities are remarkable. I think they come from the low-budget nature of both films. That is, a few characters, an isolated, inexpensive location, and ambitious special effects. All in all, Equinox did inspire me to continue my goal of making movies. I thought, if they can do it..."
Yeah.
Which I think is great that he's acknowledging that, no, Evil Dead did not rip this film off. Sam Raimi,
Right.
I mean, Sam Raimi's a consummate, incredibly original and inventive filmmaker, always has been. He's proven it so many times, from Evil Dead to Army of Darkness to the Spider-Man movies and everything in between. But yeah, I think the similarities come from a combination of Tom Sullivan being familiar with the film and from both Equinox and Army of Darkness taking a number of cues from Ray Harryhausen. I would love to say to anyone who feels like going back and rewatching Army of Darkness or doing a marathon of the Evil Dead franchise, pair it with Equinox.
Yeah.
Get the beers in or the edibles, whatever floats your boat, and you will have the time of your life. Like I said, it's on Criterion Collection DVD.
Yeah.
Which means it is in the Criterion closet, which I find amazing and hilarious. And no one's picked it out yet, but maybe one day someone will. But if you can't find it on DVD, you can also find a reasonably decent rip of it on YouTube. Equinox 1970. Check it out.
Yeah, here in the States, it's available on in the Criterion Collection on DVD, like you said, but it's also available on HBO Max and the Criterion Channel right now. So
Woo-woo!
yeah, so you can watch hopefully pretty good versions on there. But yeah, the DVD, if you do get the DVD, you get the 1970 theatrical release plus the 1967 version of the film called the Equinox: A Journey into the Supernatural.
Oh
So
yeah, that's the much shorter version. I think
yeah,
it's only like 60 odd minutes or something.
yeah,
And then yeah, they just went back and filmed more
filmed more.
for the
Yeah,
theatrical version.
yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm gonna have to hunt that DVD down. I want that in my collection.
yeah. So another interesting piece of this is the person who did the effects on this is Dennis Muren, who ended up doing work on Star Wars and Jurassic Park. So definitely worth going back and watching again. Like you said with KMB effects, that these people have to start somewhere, and a lot of people start in these low budget things and end up becoming much bigger later on down the road. So. Um, no, that's fantastic. I'll definitely have to check that. I've never seen it, but I'll definitely have to check that out. Being as big of a Evil Dead fan as I am, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, you'll be like I said. I mean, there are stretches where it drags a bit, but
Yeah, yeah,
maybe watch the 60 odd minute version if you can,
right.
and you'll just spend the whole time going, "I recognise that shot. I recognise that demon," and yeah, maybe make a drinking game out of it or something.
Yeah,
Every
yeah,
time you spot something that makes you think of Evil Dead, have a shot or
yeah.
whatever takes your
Absolutely.
fancy.
All right. Well, thank you so much for bringing that to my attention. That'll be fun to watch. I hope everybody else will go and watch that as well. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show this time. It was great having you on. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's been an
Yeah.
absolute blast.
Yeah.
I do a number of podcasts, but usually I'm selling something. Usually it's to promote my book. So to just come on one, just to have fun and chat has been a
Yeah.
really refreshing time. So thank
No.
you.
Yeah, definitely. Why don't you let people know where they can find you online? And this is where you can plug some of your books as well.
Oh, go on then, very quickly. You can find me under the moniker Bavalamp. That's BAVALAMP. Think Lava Lamp and Mario Bava. You can find me under that name on most social media, apart from Elon Musk's Hell site, which I haven't been on for a good number of years. And my books are The Vatican versus Horror Movies and Fulci's Inferno, which is a book all about Lucio Fulci, who's my favourite horror director. They're both out from McFarland. You can find them in your local bookshop. You can find them online, pretty much everywhere. If you're into Italian horror, if you're into stories about the rotten core of the Catholic Church, check my books out. You'll probably enjoy them a great deal.
All right. Well, thank you so much. That is awesome. Yeah, everybody go check his workout and go check him out on social media. And thank you again. I appreciate you so much for coming on the show. This was a great time.
Thanks so much. Been a lot of fun.
All right. Yeah, and we'll probably get you on again sometime soon to come on for another fun episode. So,
Anytime you like.
all right. Sounds great. Thank you. Thanks for listening. Creepy and Geeky is produced and hosted by Robert Clark. If you like what you've heard, please consider giving the show 5 stars and a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and share the podcast on social media to help spread the word. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app or at creepyandgeeky.com. You can follow the podcast by going to creepyandgeeky.com and clicking on any of the social links. If you'd like to follow me, you can find my links at geekthulu.com. You can support the podcast by ordering teas and more on TeePublic or by donating to the coffee page. All of the links are in the show notes. Finally, don't forget, stay creepy.